Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Sadie, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tegan. And we are continuing on with our annual December episodes with a 2024 wrapped episode. So we're going to be sharing, first of all, our podcast wrapped from Spotify. So just sharing some insights, I guess, on how our show did over the past year. But then we're going to jump into what you're probably actually here for, which is our favorite things from the year. Before we get into that, though, let's kick off this episode, as we always do, with a connection card.
Yes. Okay. This card says, when you can't sleep, what keeps you up at night? I feel like for me, probably within the last year, I have a lot of money-related insomnia, where now anytime I make a major purchase, I can't sleep for a day or two or three, which I feel like is probably pretty normal. I feel like a lot of people's stress is related to money. And yeah, it doesn't matter if I have the money to cover it, I've budgeted, all that stuff. It's a non-logical part of my brain will wake me up, and it's I will be thinking about things while half asleep, and then I'll think about them so much I wake myself up, and then I'm just there laying there thinking about it. So
yeah. I do feel financial stress definitely keeps probably lots of people up. I think the thing that came to mind for me is just having a really lengthy to-do list. I get very overwhelmed when I think about everything I need to do at work and then after work through the week, and especially with the holidays coming up, I'm there's just not enough time to get everything I want done. Throw in a trip to Montreal I'm going on, or I think I'm actually on when this episode drops. There's just so much to do, so little time. And sometimes I feel like I handle it well, and I'm motivated, being nope, I'm ticking things off the list. I got a handle on this. But oftentimes the nights I can't sleep, it's just when I'm going over and over my to-do list, which is so silly because it's we all know there's nothing you can do. You should sleep so that you wake up energized to tackle the to-do list. You're not actually going to do any of those things in the middle of the night when you're laying there awake. But usually when that does happen, I just turn on my light and pull out my agenda, or just have a piece of paper and come up with a plan for how I'll tackle things. But I feel that's usually, what keeps me up the most.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I have that as well, especially if I'm going on a trip or gonna do something big.
Yeah.
Then it's all I can think about is, oh, I need to do this, or I need to pack this. And definitely.
And for me, it's worthwhile turning my light on and just writing it down or putting it in my phone, so that I'm not tossing and turning or fearing that I'll forget what I've been thinking about. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Now you guys know what keeps us up at night. We will.
Perfect.
Yeah. We'll probably get a little bit lighter, I guess, the rest of this episode. So, like I said, let's kick off our 2024 wrapped with a recap of the podcast. So this was season 4 of our Golden 20s. We dropped season 4 with new cover art, all of that in February. And every year, since we use Spotify to power our podcast, we get a wrap similar to what you get if you listen to music on Spotify. But like I said, it's just kind of a behind the scenes on what you guys like and listen to, just how our followers and listeners have grown year over year. So that's the first thing from our wrapped, is that our followers, I think this is exclusive to Spotify, but in any case, we're up 17% compared to last year, which is really exciting. And what I found super interesting is that 78% of our listeners discovered us this year. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's it's crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like that isn't correct, but I believe them. But that's crazy. Yeah, I was just looking it up. We have over 2,000 Spotify followers.
Yeah.
Which is a very big number.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Your
Thanks
guys
for following.
Yeah. Your guys' favorite episode was How to Travel in Your 20s. And we talked about prioritizing your time and money to accommodate traveling. We gave you tips for traveling solo, a pre-travel checklist. So if you haven't listened to that episode, it seems to be a fan favorite. So go find it. But yeah, that was our top episode this year.
Yeah, we'll have to do some more travel themed ones because they do tend to do well generally.
Yeah.
We were streamed in 71 countries. Top country was the US, which I think has been the case pretty much every year.
Yeah. Probably not the first year when it was just our friends and family listening here in Canada. But
yeah.
as soon as the first viral TikTok went off or popped off, not went off, popped off, that's when, all of a sudden, most of our listeners were from the US.
I remember the first time we got like a big group of followers from the US, and it was like one girl from a sorority, and then all these other girls from the same sorority like slowly trickled in, and I thought that was really cute. Yeah. And now, like, I don't often go and look at where the followers are coming from, so don't think I'm creepy. But back in those days, that one follower, I was like, "Ooh, girl, who are you? Where are you from?" So,
especially like we don't really have sororities in Canada, so just the whole concept of that, Tegan and I are like, "Oh my god, this is so fun!"
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I sometimes watch like YouTube vlogs of sorority girls like setting up their rooms and stuff, or I see them like reviewing their meals on TikTok. So that was quite exciting.
We love that. Well, speaking of you guys and our listeners, we could see that your top music, so like music genres, and top audiobook genres. And I found this interesting, but also like checks out. So top music, pop, rap, and country. So I'm like, okay, I guess that checks out. Audiobooks, romance, self-help, and biographies and memoirs. And I feel like when we talk about the only thing that kind of is not on brand with us, Tag, is probably rap music. Like, I don't think either of us are really into that. But I feel like we talk about going to concerts. We're always seeing like pop artists, country artists, more so you than me. And these are exactly the types of books we read ourselves as well. And we like recommend on the podcast. So I love that it all checks out. We are all just living the same life out here.
Yeah. I keep seeing that thing on Instagram that's like, I am exactly like every other girl. Like,
Totally.
Taylor Swift was my number one artist. I love espresso martinis. And I do feel like these are probably like the most popular music genres for women and the most popular book genres for women. And I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
I think probably one of the most exciting stats, or at least it was the most exciting for me, was we were in the top 10% of video podcasts, which is pretty cool, I think, on Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, you can see our faces every single week. Yeah. Well, pretty much every week while you're listening to this. And we're also on YouTube too. So yeah, you can always have some friends in the room while you're listening to your podcast. But yep. And then speaking of friends, we were the top 10 show for 810 fans, which is cool. And then we were the number one show for 155 top fans, which also is very cool to think about.
Yeah.
There's 155 people who listen to our podcast more than any other podcast. Even Call Her Daddy.
Yeah. And we didn't even crack my mom's top 5. So,
so we know it's not your mom.
She's a fake fan.
That's funny. And then the last thing I said to Tegan, probably every podcaster got this, but it gave us like a persona for the type of creator we are. And ours was the storyteller. And I feel like that, like I said, probably every podcaster got that, but that definitely checks out for us because I feel like we're always just chatting away.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is our Golden 2024 wrapped. Feel like I'm proud of us. Another year in the books.
Yeah, did a good job. I know Wrapped in general was controversial this year, but I felt a lot better looking at this podcast Wrapped than looking at my own personal Wrapped. So I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your own personal Wrapped, maybe let's jump into our favorites from the year. So we have a few different categories. We'll start with music and podcasts just for that nice, smooth transition. Also, we'll talk about our favorite books, our favorite movies and TV shows. We have beauty, wellness, fashion, home, tech, like random other categories. So we are really going to cover it all.
Yes. I mean, I just said I'm just like every other girl. So, as you could imagine, my top artist this year was Taylor Swift. I think she's
Love
been my
it.
top artist for like at least the past 3 years, maybe even more.
Mm-hmm.
But I specifically loved her new album, The Tortured Poet Department. It's like now one of my favorite albums by her. So I just most of my top 10 were songs from that album. And I just love it. There's a different song for like a different mood. Some of them are on my like workout playlist. Some are on my like in my feels playlist. So I love that. I was also a fan of Sabrina Carpenter's album Short and Sweet. It's very like poppy, which I don't always listen to just like traditional pop outside of Taylor Swift. But every once in a while, I'm like, you know what? Hell yeah. Let's listen to some of the Sabrina Carpenter. So really like that. I also really enjoyed Casey Musgrave's album from this year, Deeper Well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got to see all of those. No, not Sabrina Carpenter. But I was going to say you got to see all of those live too. But I guess by the time the Eras Tour came to Toronto, it wasn't
it was
Sabrina
Gracie
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I also really liked Gracie Abrams' albums, but the reason I didn't put it is I've never listened to her album front to back. I've just listened to like random songs as it came up. So I was like, I'm a fake fan. Can't put that.
So I did put The Secret of Us on my top favorites because I listened to that album front to back multiple times a week. Like, I love it. I think she was actually my 5th top artist on Spotify Wrapped, which was kind of surprising to me because I think that album dropped in the summer, but I only started listening to it in September. But I was telling Tag this already, so sorry, Tag, this is repetitive for you. But for everybody else listening, in like the final stretch training for my 5K, I listened to that album front to back while running. And it was like, I don't even know. I was running at like 8 p.m. when it was dark outside. It was starting to get cold out, like that brisk fall breeze. And I was just listening to like this kind of like moody teenage rage album. And it was just my happy place. So yeah, I became obsessed with that album. Unfortunately, I did not make it to the Eras Tour, so I didn't see Gracie Abrams live, but I did see 2 of my other top artists this year and people I was listening to nonstop. First was Maggie Rogers. I got to see her in concert in October. She was actually here in Toronto the night before my birthday, which I felt was a sign from the universe. But I think the 3 out of my top 5 songs this year were Maggie Rogers songs. I just fell in love with the album she put out back in the spring. And then my top artist, according to Spotify, in my mind, Maggie Rogers was my top artist, but according to Spotify, Noah Kahan was actually my top artist, which again, I am just like other girls. But Tegan and I actually got to see him in April, so I feel very fortunate to be able to see both of those top artists this year. And then my other favorite that I thought I'd mention is Cowboy Carter. Beyonce was, I think, my 3rd top artist. And then Texas Hold'em. This is interesting. Texas Hold'em was my top song. And I was surprised by that. But I said to Tegan, it came out like the Super Bowl back in February. And Tegan and I were actually in New York at that time. So I feel like I listened to it a lot because it was like very, I don't know, took me back to that like time nostalgic. On our trip. And yeah, I don't know. It was just, and it is a banger. I'm not going to lie. It's also on my workout playlist. So I'm not defending it, but I just found it a weird top song, but I did love it. And I love that whole album. Probably my favorite song from that album is actually Two Hands to Heaven, but that did not make it on my top song list. But in any case, those are my top music. No podcasts. I guess actually 2 other things I was going to mention is terms of like who I got to see live. So although it wasn't in my Spotify Wrapped, Wild Rivers was one of my other favorite artists this year. And I think I said this last year too, but Tegan and I actually just got to see them live a few nights ago. So that was really exciting. And then I also got to see Avril Lavigne live this year, which was not on my 2024 bingo card, but I absolutely loved that. It was like, I think my first solo concert, and it was great despite being pouring rain. And then Tegan and I also saw Billy Joel on that New York trip I was just talking about, which also wasn't really on my bingo card for like my
Yeah.
life. But now that we saw Billy Joel in New York at Madison Square Garden, I'm like, yeah, can't top that. That's good stuff.
Yeah. It's the best. Like, if anyone ever asks you, what's the best concert you've ever been to? It's like the ultimate trump card to be like, Billy Joel at Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me. Same with Noah Kahan. I also got to go to the Eras tour. That was my first solo concert, and such a good concert to be like a first solo concert.
Yeah.
And like the vibes were immaculate. I loved it. I stood and danced the whole time. And I was like one of the only people doing that, but I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I made it here. I'm dancing. So that was great. I also got to see Orville Peck for the first time, which was pretty cool. And I got to see Bob Dylan for the first time. It was the worst concert I've ever seen in my entire life. So he's certainly not on my favorites, but it was like a bucket list item.
Yeah.
Where like in our family, our favorite band is The Band, and that is famously Bob Dylan's backing band. So it was just kind of like a cool moment to get to see him. And I've also always kind of hated him. And then seeing him live, I was like, yep, this is why I've hated you. I knew it. So I felt really like good about that. That my hatred was justified.
Funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, shall we talk books?
Yes. Yeah, I have kind of two lists of books. One that are just like some of the favorite books I've read this year. And then I've got a list of like 2024 specific releases that I just wanted to mention because I like them.
Okay.
But so books I read this year that I loved: A Court of Thorns and Roses, immaculate. I have since now read all of the Sarah J. Maas, the Maasverse, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I just finished the Throne of Glass series, which was so good. I've like never read a fantasy series like that before. It's 8 books long. It took me 9 months to read them all. And so by the time I got to the last book, I was like sobbing. It took me like a week to get through the last book because I was just so emotional about, like, obviously emotional stuff was happening because it's like the last book in an 8-book series. But just like the fact that this would be the end of my like first time reading these characters was crazy. And there were so many good characters, so many good like romance subplots, and and there are like a couple of mantras the main character says to herself in that book, and I say them to myself all the time, especially when I'm like doing Pilates and things like that. But yeah, it's so good. I also read Pride and Prejudice. I've mentioned this before. So good. I also read Normal People this year, and that was the first like Sally Rooney book I read. And then I went out and bought all of her other books. So I've only read Conversations with Friends so far. I'm going to read her other 2 next year, but just so good. And then as far as like 2024 releases, I wanted to mention Funny Story by Emily Henry. I just love Emily Henry. I blind buy all of her books as soon as they're announced. I pre-order them. And This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I've read all of her books, and this one was my favorite of hers.
Love it. Yeah. I never think about when the book was released. I feel you do this every year, and I'm always like, I didn't even think of that. It's just I read it in 2024, and it was one of my favorites. But in any case, Funny Story was also on my list. I also love Emily Henry books. I think I've said this before, but I always relate to her main characters, which I feel like is why I will also blind buy her books. And I just know she can't disappoint, kind of thing. No pressure, Emily Henry, for 2025. But yeah, I saw that also was voted on Goodreads. So it seems like lots of people love that one. Another kind of like romance one I read this year. Again, this was not released in 2024, but I just happened to have read it this year. And that was Love in Other Words. I heard really, really good things about this book. It's written by Christina Lauren, who's like I think it's like 2 friends or something who co-authored together. And I've read, you didn't know that?
No.
Okay, I'm pretty sure. Now I need to double check myself, but I'm pretty sure. It is. But in
That's
any case,
crazy.
I'd read
Okay.
some of their other books before, and I was like, they're okay, but like not 5-star reads by any means. Reads? Means? Why does that seems like it rhymes in my head? Doesn't. In any case, yeah, not 5-star reads. But this one was one of their earliest kind of like romance novels. I don't know what they used to write, but this was kind of like their gateway into a new genre. And oh my God, it was so good. It had this like coming of age story, which I have a soft spot for, the romance. It was just so, so good. So I wanted to mention that as well. The only fantasy type books that made my list are Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Both of those we read with our book club. And I feel like that was actually the gateway into fantasy for a lot of people in our book club. From there, we went on to read ACOTAR. I only read the first 2 books from ACOTAR, but for me, I really loved Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. And then the last book I'm going to mention, this one's a hot take, okay? But it's going to transition nicely into our next category. I read It Ends With Us this year, and I loved it. 5 stars. I read It Starts With Us right after. That was like 3 stars at best. Like, it was very much Colleen Hoover being like, I didn't want to read or write this, but people on TikTok asked for me to, and like, I just wanted to do it for the fans. And I was like, yeah, girl, I could tell you shouldn't have wrote this one. It Ends With Us just felt so like genuine and like real to me. However, next category we're going to go into is favorite movies and TV shows. I want to say I did watch It Ends With Us in theaters, which I never go to the movies. I did not like it at all. And I think it was because I wanted to mention it under the movies category, even though it's not my favorite, just because the hype around the press tour was so huge, like a big part of 2024 pop culture, I feel. And I feel like that whole, like, press tour made me like Blake Lively less, which is really unfortunate because I do really love her. But I feel like I'm just learning that I really love her sense of style more so than her as a person, which is fair. But the movie wasn't that great, especially since I just read the book, gave it 5 stars, watched the movie, and I was like, yeah, no, this is totally different vibe than the book. They should have just kept it to be like this very serious, heart-wrenching story, and it would have also been a really great movie, but they didn't do that, and I didn't love it. So I know it's a hot take, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a hot take that people didn't like the movie.
Like the movie, yeah. I think it's a hot take. Well, maybe it's not even a hot take that I like the book. I feel like if you recently
it's divisive, I think.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a movie for a reason. Like, people loved it. And again, she wrote the second book because people loved It Ends With Us so much. But then it just kind of went downhill, I think. But the book was
I've
really
only
great.
read one of her books, and it was Verity.
Right.
And people love that book also, but I read it and I was like, this is god awful. I like read it so quickly where I was like, I just need to stay up and read this so that I never have to lay my eyes on this again. And then I vowed to myself to never read another one of her books. But then I saw that you loved It Ends With Us so much, and I was like, do I have to read that? But I'm also curious if you ever read Verity. No.
Okay.
Because
don't see the movie. Yeah, I feel if you don't see the movie or didn't see it, you might like the book, but it's very possible you would hate the book too. I found it very like heartbreaking. But not everybody does.
I know
but
bits of what it's about, and I've seen excerpts of quotes where people are like, this is terrible or whatever. But so we'll see. Maybe I'll read it. But I kind of want you to read Verity to see if I was just like being extra bitter, or if you're like, no, this book is not as good as that, or
I want to read a few of her other books because this was actually my first Colleen Hoover book, which is a surprise considering this is very much the genre I read. So I need to read more. However, I don't know if I'm over the whole It Ends With Us movie press tour. Even though that happened months ago. I am a Scorpio and hold grudges. So I don't know. We'll see. But in any case.
And Verity's like, it's more a thriller.
Yeah. Right.
Like there is a romance subplot, but it's a thriller through and through.
Yeah. So. Anyways, let's maybe talk about some good movies. Tag, I'll hand it over to you because we know I do not shine in this category.
Yeah, I've got kind of like a weird little mix of movies here. So one of my favorite movies this year was Challengers. I really want to
yeah.
actually like rewatch it, but I thought the acting was so good. It's set like in the early 2000s, which I just kind of loved. And I found the story interesting and the music was so good. Like, yeah, I just thought that it was awesome and like a perfect summer movie. So really enjoyed that. I also really liked the movie Civil War. It was like an A24 movie, and it was about like the ethics around war journalism. And it
Hmm.
was Kristen Dunst playing like a war journalist in a civil war that's happening in like modern day America, and how her job is to just like take pictures of things, but not actually step in. So she's taking pictures
Oh.
of like these horrible things happening or people being horrible to each other. But she's like, but my job is to get the news out. So I can't step in and stop it or else I can't get the picture. And if I stop it, that's just stopping it now. Or if I get the picture out, it's making a bigger impact. And it was just about like the ethical dilemmas around that,
Hmm.
which, yeah, it was
Yeah.
kind of interesting. I also liked The Substance. That's Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, however you say her name. And yeah, about her taking some kind of experimental drug to become like the younger, more beautiful version of herself, kind of like plastic surgery meets Ozempic. And then it all starts to go wrong because she's essentially like trading time in her old life to live this young life. And then she
Hmm.
starts to regret like making the trade and all these things start to go wrong. So I thought that that was really interesting. Parts of it are cheesy. It is kind of like, I feel like a Halloween-y movie, but I liked it. I also really liked Saturday Night because I love movies about movies or movies about TV shows. And it's about the first episode of Saturday Night Live. And a movie I saw at TIFF that I don't know has a wide release yet was called Relay. And it was Riz Ahmed, I think is how you say his name, was starring in it, which he's just like a great actor. It was like a crime thriller, just like high stakes. So I wanted to mention that.
I love that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen any of those, but Challengers and Saturday Night were both ones I wanted to see. I tried
Mm-hmm.
to rent Challengers on maybe it was Apple TV or Prime something, and it was like $25. And I was like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I might as well go to the movie theater
Yeah.
to watch that. But it wasn't in theaters anymore. But now I feel like it's probably on Crave or something where I can watch it for
Yeah, I
free.
think
So,
it is. I saw it on something and I was like, oh,
yeah.
Challengers. That's why I was like, maybe I should rewatch it and see if I like it as much.
Yeah.
But
I'll
yeah.
come over. We'll watch it together because
Yeah.
I want to see
It
it.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre, but I really liked it. But I could see, like, I can imagine someone listening being like, you liked that movie? I feel like you either liked it or you hated it. Like, there's no
Mm.
in between. So,
Yeah. I also think when I saw It Ends With Us, I saw the trailer for Saturday Night. And I was like,
okay. Yeah.
ooh, I should see this in theaters because I always love going to the
Yeah.
movies, but then I just never do. But, anyways, I will also have to watch that one since I never went back for it. But love
Yeah.
it.
It was good.
Yeah. I have no movies on my list because I don't think I watched, like I said, never go to the movies. I'm a chronic rewatcher, if you guys don't know that about me already. So I feel like the only things I watched that were like current and relevant to like this year in a 2024 wrapped episode, I did watch the Martha documentary. I
Mhm.
quite liked that. It was very interesting. I feel like I understand
Yeah.
why Martha Stewart's so controversial. Again, why some people love her and why some people hate her. I thought she like it just positions her as just such a like boss ass bitch, and I was just like, hell yeah, we love this. So wanted to mention that. Besides that, I just have TV shows, and they're exactly what you would expect. So I watched the new season, sorry, of Only Murders in the Building. I also was obsessed with Nobody Wants This, like all the other girls. And then just recently, the new season of Sex Lives of College Girls started coming out. I think this was like end of November. So I always look forward to that every year. And so far, it seems good. Excited to keep watching that as the year rounds out. And then, like I said, I'm a chronic rewatcher. However, this year is my first time rewatching The Vampire Diaries. And oh my God, I'm obsessed. Like, I watched it probably, I think, when I was maybe last year of high school. I started getting into it for sure when I was in college. I watched the whole thing. I started watching the originals. And then I remember vividly, I moved out from residence into like a off-campus apartment. And then I started working like crazy. And I remember vividly being like, oh, I'm so sad I haven't watched this in a while. And then I just stopped watching it altogether and then never went to rewatch it. But this year I was really leaning into like the witchy vampire magic vibes of the fall and Halloween. So I started rewatching it then, and I'm still watching it and I'm still obsessed with it. But I'm also obsessed with Nina Dobrev in general. So of course I'd be obsessed rewatching this. But in any case, those were my TV shows more so than movies.
Nice. Yeah, I completely forgot about Nobody Wants This, but I really like that as well. I also watched Fallout, which I thought was pretty good. I didn't like it as much as The Last of Us, where I feel like it was very hyped to be like, it's the best video game adaptation ever. But I liked it. Like, I thought the aesthetic was cool and like some of the stories, and that it was like a girl. So I enjoyed that. I also watched the like documentary series on Netflix, American Nightmare, and that was crazy. I think it was only 4 episodes, but I watched the first one and then was like, I'm just gonna need to watch all of this right now. And yeah, it was a documentary about this like couple in America where the girl goes missing. He calls 911 and is like, my girl was abducted by these crazy guys who like broke into our house and they like drugged us and they were wearing scuba outfits and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, this is the most made up story. You obviously just like murdered your girlfriend. And then the girlfriend shows up like 2 weeks later. So then they were saying it's like Gone Girl. And so she must have like gone off, because then she was like, no, I'm good. He just dropped me off back home. And then it like the whole investigation is people just being like, none of this makes any sense. Like, what is going on? Is he lying? Is she lying?
Oh God,
and yeah, they were calling her like Gone Girl. Yeah. So, and it just gets like crazier and crazier. Like I said, I couldn't stop watching because I was just like, I need to figure out what is going on. So
did you get
I wanted
like
to
a
mention
resolution
that.
in the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. Both of them are like interviewed in it, which is kind of cool. Like, I think the first episode, this is like not really a spoiler, but the first episode ends with her like sitting down in the interview chair. So that's when I was like, oh, I'm locking in. I gotta hear what she has to say. So yeah, you do get a resolution, but it's just like crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
see,
really
every time
good.
you talk about things, I'm like, I should watch this. I should watch that.
It is
And
kind of
then I
like
don't.
scary
Like-
to think about though, some of these things, or I'm just like,
Yeah, I know. I feel that's a thing with documentaries. That's why I watched Martha. I was like, okay,
yeah,
this is, educational, interesting,
Chill.
but I can still sleep at night.
yeah, exactly. So those were my favorites of TV and movie.
I love it. Well, the next category, we always joke that this is the category I have so much to say, where movies and TV shows is Tegan's domain, but beauty and wellness. So rather than chatting your guys' ear off for the next 3 hours, I thought I would just focus on like favorites in my everyday beauty and wellness routine. And I'll kick us off with just, what do I even have in here? I'm just trying to remind myself. Okay, only one skincare product, and that is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Gel Moisturizer. 10 out of 10. Oh my God, I love this stuff. I get it off Amazon. It's cheap. It does its job. It works so well with my makeup. I just love it. And I know there's like a whole Hydro Boost line, especially in the States. I feel like we only have a few products here in Canada, but it is just growing. And I've tried a few different Hydro Boost products like here and there. Nothing where I like use it every day like the moisturizer. But man, I love it. It's a good drugstore find, in my opinion. I think this was in my favorites last year, but I wanted to mention it again just because it literally changed my life. And that is the Secret brand Outlast Gel Deodorant, because I am a sweaty gal, guys, and I was just having a hard time finding a deodorant that worked for me. But I am obsessed with this gel deodorant from Secret, so needed to shout that out. I also found, while shopping in the States, I found a shave oil from Tree Hut. And that also has like completely changed my body care routine, I guess. I have extremely dry skin, and I feel like I have a nice razor now, and I've been shaving my legs for how long, but I still often like nick myself, and I think it's just because my skin is so dry and sensitive. But I find shaving with the shave oil, it's like a lot smoother and just, I don't know, feels better. So wanted to mention that. I haven't seen it here in Canada yet, but I'm sure it exists, or there's probably other shave oils out there. But in any case, that definitely made the list of favorites. I also loved the Moroccan Oil hairspray, which I know I've mentioned before, but this is like, it is a pricey hairspray, I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
I find I can have my hair up in a ponytail like this if you're watching on video. One day I can hairspray the shit out of it. The next day I can like not wash my hair and my hair's still like good to go. Like it's not like crispy, gross,
Yeah.
sticky hairspray. Like it just does its job, but it doesn't completely destroy your hair in the process. So wanted to recommend that as a favorite. I use it every day if my hair is up or just straight. Like it's just the finishing touch, if you will. And then speaking of finishing touches, the other thing that I've been using ever since our New York trip, not to bring that up again, is the Fame perfume by Rabanne. And I got a travel size of this when we went to New York. And I think like at Sephora, they just kind of threw it in my bag kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of this brand or like this perfume before. And then I wore it that whole trip and I was like, wait, this is so good. Like it's kind of citrusy, but feminine still, kind of warm. So I was like, you know what? This is my new thing. So then I ended up buying another travel size, or like a mini, I guess, not travel size, but like the smaller bottle. And now I have the full size, and I put another full size on my Christmas list because I'm already out and need to restock. So that's how much I love it. And then last thing, I know I said I wouldn't talk your ear off, and here we are. I have been using Dr. Teal's like foaming bath, like bubble bath, for a few years now, but I found my favorite scent ever this year. I think it is new, and it's called Lemon Balm. And it does not smell how you would think it would smell. Like it smells very citrusy, I guess, but also like floral, and it's just absolutely amazing. So wanted to mention that as well.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely agree with loving the Dr. Teal's and the Moroccan oil. I use so many Moroccan oil products. Like I use their hairspray, their dry shampoo, and their texture spray. Sometimes like if I don't want to hairspray my hair, I'll only use the texture spray, but it's also good. Although I will say expensive, and they always, mine at least, all run out at the same time.
Bummer.
So I'm like, okay, about to go spend $150 on hairspray, but
yeah,
it's worth
pro
it.
tip,
I love them.
they do gift sets. So it could be a good time
yeah,
to stock up. I think, doesn't Sephora usually do one more sale like over Boxing Week?
Yeah.
So maybe
I
you
think
could
so.
look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, see if you can get
that's
a
a good
set of
idea.
all your favorites.
Yeah, that is a good idea. I think for me, I only had 2 things to mention just because like a lot of my favorites roll over from last year. So I'm like, I didn't want to just like mention the same things I mentioned last year, but I am going to mention something I talk about all the time, which is my Dyson Airwrap. And I wanted to mention it because I got the new version this year, and I got the version with the long barrels. And holy moly, game changer. Just because my old one stopped working, and every Dyson product has like a phone number on it, and my hairstylist was like, girl, call the number and they'll send you a new one. And I didn't believe her, but I called the number, and then they did. I had to like mail in my Dyson Airwrap, which took a couple of weeks. And then, yeah, they sent me one of the new ones. Some of my friends were worried that it would be like a refurbished one, so it maybe wouldn't work as well. But compared to my old Airwrap, it works so much better. Having the long barrels is a game changer. And yeah, I'm like, it makes sense. If I spend $800 on a hairdryer and it stops working after 2 years, you should replace it.
Yeah.
So in my mind, like the cost per use, it's very much worth it, a worthy investment. And now, especially that I've gotten a second one all covered under that same $800, makes it a little more reasonable. And then I did ask, I was like, if this one breaks, will you send me another one? And they were like, no.
Don't push your luck, girl.
Yeah. So this is my last one with my $800. But like I said, I feel like that's
That's great.
pretty good. Like that one lasted 2 years. This one hopefully will last 2 years, if not longer. So yeah, wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention is something I actually got in a beauty advent calendar I got last year, and it's the Elizabeth Arden Advanced Ceramide Capsule Daily Youth Restoring Serum. And this is, I feel like if I could like put up a picture or something, these are the little like capsules. It comes in like a pill bottle shape, and then they're little capsules that you like pop, and then you put the like serum on your face. So I always was just like, that is so gimmicky. That is so stupid. And they're also very expensive.
Yeah.
So I have been like saving them because I don't want to run out. But like I said, I got them in my beauty advent calendar, and they are so good at prepping your skin for makeup. So anytime, like every time I'm going to a wedding or like doing photos or anything where I'm like maybe putting on more makeup than usual and want my skin to look really nice, I will use one of these because it's almost like a primer. It is like very oily and I have dry skin, so it probably just works well for me, but it just makes my skin so smooth and my makeup go on so nicely. And I don't think I've mentioned these on the podcast before, so that's why I wanted to share that.
I love that. I'm glad something from the advent calendar made it into your yearly favorites.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I don't buy a lot of skincare. So it's like everything I got in my advent calendar, that's just been my skincare through the year. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. And if you guys are wanting to see this year's advent calendar, Tegan's opening up every day on TikTok and Instagram, I think. So go check it out. See what she is getting this year from the advent calendar.
Yeah, it was cheaper this year, but the value is less. So last year's was valued at $1,600, which we got even more. But this year's only valued at $1,300. So I'm very curious to see like
are they
the
cheaping out?
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's some things like there's this Clinique like overnight mask that I use quite frequently, and I got a full size last year, and then I just opened up a full size this year. So I was like, okay, great. When I run out, I'm set.
Yeah. I hope you get these serum capsules restocked in this year's calendar.
I think I might, or they have different ones. Like the ones I have are gold. But I know they have ones that are like rose gold. So I'm like, I don't know. Like maybe I'll get a different kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
It also is just very extra to be like, let me just open this and pop the capsule. So that's why I like them for weddings and like special occasions. But
love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, our next category is not too far off from beauty and wellness, but we're going to talk about fashion and then also some home stuff as well. I think before I get into the home stuff, the two things I wanted to mention on the fashion front are polar opposites of each other. The first is my skirts and nylon outfit formulas. Sorry, dramatic pause. Outfit formula. That's the word I'm looking for. I have been loving short skirts. I feel like maybe I did say this in last year's favorite too, but I've been loving short skirts. I wear like nude colored or black nylons or tights under them, kind of like the see-through tights, if you will. And man, it's just my go-to for everything. I have a leather skirt, a denim skirt, a black like skirt. I have a leopard print skirt now. Like it's just so good. Short ankle boots, knee-high boots. Like I don't know. I just feel it's a great way, especially going from like the office to like plans after work. Like just the perfect outfit formula. So I wanted to mention that. However, on my not so glam put together days, I have been really loving my running clothes that I got from Reitmans and their active line Hibba. And why I'm laughing to myself over here is because I remember when I mentioned Reitmans, I think it was 2 years ago, as one of my favorites for their leggings. People were like, wait, what the heck? And then since then, people like my friends have bought them and they're like, wait, these are the best leggings ever.
Yeah.
So I like going on my running journey this year, I had to buy thermal running clothes, which are often very, very expensive. However, I got mine from Hibba at Reitmans and it is so good. It's so affordable. They go like 40% off, especially like through the holidays, Boxing Week, that kind of thing. But I also got some like fleece, like sweaters. I got like zip up running shirts, so many different types of layers. And it made like starting to run in the winter months earlier this year so enjoyable. And like I said, I'll even just like wear them when I'm working from home because they just bring me so much joy. So those were the two things I wanted to mention on the fashion front.
I love that. Yeah, my mom was one of those people who started shopping at Reitman's because you mentioned it. And then she's like, damn, this store's fire.
It is fire. I also have, okay, sorry, I wasn't going to mention this sweatshirt, but now that we are talking about Reitman's and I'm fangirling again, I got this gray sweatshirt that has like Paris written on it. Have you seen me wear this sweatshirt tag?
I think so.
Yeah, it is my favorite sweatshirt. And it's from Reitman's. And yeah, I saw it in an email that they sent and I was like, I have to get that shirt. And then what did you know? Next day it's 40% off, $25. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. And now I wear it with pleated skirts, jeans. I put like a white button down under it. Like, it's just my favorite sweatshirt. And it's from Reitman's.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, as far as fashion goes, I wanted to mention 3 things. There's this one girl I follow on Instagram. I wish I could remember her name, but she has this outfit that I was like, I just need to recreate this outfit. I have. It has since become my favorite. So first element is my Cezanne. I think that's how you say it. Cezanne. Yeah. Cezanne cardigan. Yeah. It's like the classic green button-up cardigan. Yeah, I got it for Christmas last year. I love it. It's like one of my favorite pieces of clothing. It's so comfy. It's warm, but like not too hot. And yeah, so I really love that. So that's what I wear on the top. I will usually wear it buttoned up, or I will wear it with just the top buttoned on up to be a cool kid. And then I'll wear just like a white t-shirt underneath it. Then on the bottom, I am wearing my Levi's ribcage wide leg jeans. And these were the first pair of wide leg jeans that I tried on that didn't feel like silly or weird. And so I do have jeans that are like bell bottomy and stuff, but they've always been more like tight through the thighs. These are my first ones that are like truly wide legged jeans. And lots of times people will compliment me on them. And so that is what I'm wearing on the bottom. And then on my feet are my Sambas, which are just like the fashion girlies, everyday runner shoes. I will say they're very slippy, so I don't wear them in the rain. But other than that, I will wear them. And that's my little outfit.
Yeah, your cool girl outfit. I love that.
Yeah. I'll find like the picture she posted on Pinterest. This was how like I found her. And then I like slowly recreated the outfit. So I'll try and find it and like stick it up in the video. So everyone can be like, what are you talking about? They will see.
The best. I love that. Awesome. Well, on the home side of this category, again, only 2 things to mention. The first is a Canadian home store that is new to me. I think it's also new in Ontario since it's from Quebec, but it is called Must. And I was actually just ranting to Tegan about this yesterday because I just stumbled upon their first store in Toronto. I just had my first encounter in Toronto with their store IRL and I was obsessed. Could have bought the whole store. It's really good prices. Like if you're Canadian listening to this, I want to say it's like a slightly more elevated struck tube, if you will, but it has like that very like artsy, beautiful feel of a Quebec company, kind of Bouclair-esque, but more furniture, if you will. But in any case, I got my new TV stand from there. And then when I was in the store yesterday, like I said, I was like, I could buy the whole damn store. So wanted to mention that if you're looking for furniture or just like decor items, could be worthwhile checking out. I know I'm like dying to make another purchase from there already. And then the other thing for home that I wanted to mention is, I think I told you guys how I went on like a little painting journey back in the fall. Just painted like an accent wall in pretty much every room in my house. And I put this color in my room called Cinnamon Slate by Benjamin Moore. And at first I was like scared of it. And then I was like, no, this is growing on me. And now I want my entire room this color. And then I just saw that they named Cinnamon Slate the 2025 color of the year. So I was like, damn, I was onto something here. I guess I'm a trendy gal. And yeah, like I said, it really has grown on me. It's kind of like it is a cinnamony color. So sometimes it looks brown, sometimes it looks purple, but I feel like it just depends what color my bedding is. Like next to pink, which I have a lot of pink in my house, it looks more purple, but without pink, it looks more like brown. But in any case, it's my grown-up 30-year-old bedroom color, and I am obsessed with it.
I love that. Yeah, I only had one home thing to mention, and it's Boy Smells candles, specifically
Classic.
the Casey Musgrave scents,
Mhm.
which they can be pricey because you have to buy them direct from Boy Smells. So here in Canada, it's like you then pay duties and everything, but so worth it. Her first one was Slow Burn, and I loved it. It was like my wedding scent, and it just smells so good. And then she put out one this year for Deeper Well as well, and they're actually quite different scents. So I ended up buying the two of them because I had burnt my Slow Burn all the way, and so I bought the two of them as a set, and they're really nice to kind of complement each other. These are just like the ultimate like cool girl house scents. They're very just like natural incensey, like, yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to describe, but you just, people come into your house and they're like, damn, there's some cool people who live here, I can tell. And they're just like really nice quality candles. I find that they last a really long time and they throw scent really, really well. So I love them.
Yeah. I love that you got the new candle because I saw it came out, but I
Yeah.
never asked you about it. I should have known you had ordered
Yep.
it though.
I'd be first in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. She just knows how to curate the vibe too, especially like the Deeper Well one. It's like smells like moss and trees and stuff like that. Where Slow Burn, like I said, it smells like incense and it's very like romantic and cozy. So
Love it.
yeah.
Okay, guys, our last category is kind of like the random category.
Yeah.
And I have 3 things in this category. They are all quite random. The first is contacts. So I think I maybe told you guys how it was like one of my yearly goals to get contacts because I would just walk around completely blind. Yeah, we're talking about like eye lenses. So I would walk around just completely blind because I was not wanting to wear my glasses. And oh my God, I got contacts again back on our trip to New York in February. That was like my first time wearing them full time, which I was nervous about, but it ended up being a total game changer. And now I'm like, how did I ever live just being blind all the time? Like, it just, yeah, it's mind boggling to me. So that was probably the highlight of my entire year, being able to see every time I leave the house. I also got a new hair straightener this year, which I've been loving. And it is the T3. It probably has a different like actual name from the product, but in any case, it's white. It has ceramic plates, and it's just so nice. It's also supposed to be good for like waving your hair, but I haven't attempted that yet. But there's like a wave setting on it, so I don't know. Maybe I'll give that a whirl. And then the last thing that I'll mention is that I finally splurged and bought a Nintendo Switch just a few weeks ago. In fact, maybe just last week. And this is to really lean into my inner child cozy hobbies that I've been rambling on about the past few months. I'm just so excited. I put some games on my Christmas list that I'm really hoping I get. If I don't, then I'm just going to buy them myself because this is something I'm so excited about. So yeah, little treat to myself. It was my Black Friday purchase, even though it wasn't on sale. But that's okay.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I have a Switch. I really love it. I do go through phases where I'm like, I have to play it every day, and then I like won't touch it for a couple of months, but we should become like Switch friends or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because then you can come visit my Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody, like when I posted on Instagram, people were like, oh my God, we should visit each other on Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
So funny.
So
Animal
good.
Crossing is one of the games I asked for Christmas. And if I don't get
Yeah.
it, it's going to be the first game I buy, I think. But I got the bundle that comes with Mario Kart. So all I'm doing is just sitting at home every night playing Mario Kart.
Nice.
But it's
Yeah,
great.
that's classic.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
healing.
my first purchase was Wii Sports.
Oh,
So I was like,
yeah.
this is Nintendo's peak. And then I think I've
Yeah.
only played it once.
That's funny. You know what's crazy? So again, I bought it on Black Friday. It was literally delivered the next day because Best Buy has its shit together. And then I think over that weekend / Cyber Monday, they had Hogwarts Legacy for $23.99. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, regular like $89.99.
Yeah.
I considered getting it, but I was like, no, I don't really want like a new game I have to figure out. I just want to like replay all my childhood favorites, which is Animal
Yeah.
Crossing, Mario Kart, Harvest Moon. I was really into the Tomb Raider games, which I was excited they're
Mhm.
now on like Nintendo things, because back in the day when I played video games, it was like, this is a PlayStation series. This is an
Yeah.
Xbox series. So the fact that now I can play all of those things on my Switch, I'm pumped. And then also Resident Evils and the other one. So I'm like, my cozy farming games are quickly going to turn into first-person shooter games, but I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Anyways.
did really like the Harry Potter Legacy, but I was evil. You get like all these moral choices, like should you learn the unforgivable curses? And I was like, yeah. And then I
Oh
would
my
just
God.
Avada Kedavra everyone.
Oh my
So you're supposed to be like
God.
doing battles and stuff, and I'd be like, no, Avada Kedavra dead. And then my friend got caught doing Avada Kedavra, and you have to choose if you send him to Azkaban or not. And I sent him to Azkaban,
Oh my God.
even
I
though
don't
I
want to
do
play
it.
video games with you. This is unhinged.
Tyrell was like, that is not how Hufflepuff should play. That's how Slytherins play. But
That's hilarious.
yeah, it was fun though. But good like fall game, I
Yeah.
feel.
Cozy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in this category, I just had 3 things to mention. Also, very, very random. The first is my Yeti water bottle, which I got the one that kind of looks the same as the Stanley. And I love it. One, it's in just like my favorite color. All of my Yetis are the same teal, turquoise, whatever this is. And I can put ice in it in the morning and it'll last all through the workday, all through the night, and I'll wake up the next morning and there will still be ice in it. So I love that. I've never been like, I only drink cold water, but now I'm kind of like, this is nice. Only having cold water. So I wanted to mention that because it has a straw, which I love, and it has a handle, which is kind of nice. So I love that. I also wanted to mention Othership because I just started doing that this year. And especially in the winter, it's so cozy. It's just, if you're not in Toronto or New York, it's a spa where it's just a sauna and then they have a cold plunge and it's very vibey. So love that. Very excited for the winter sauna cold plunge vibes. And then I finally took a reformer Pilates class. I know I had mentioned that
yeah.
that was one of my goals and I really, really liked it. So I wanted to mention that. Hope to continue that in the new year.
Yeah. I was going to say that I feel this episode gives some sneak peeks into what we're wanting for 2025. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So buckle up, guys. That episode's dropping in a few weeks.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe we're already like this far into December. But anyways, stay tuned. Like Sadie said, we have a lot of like New Year's Eve themed episodes, some that we do every year, and lots of stuff to just like really help you get into the best mindset for the new year. So definitely make sure you're following and subscribe to us so that you see when those new episodes drop. And you can follow us on social media in between that. We are at our Golden 20s on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, Spotify. I feel like that's it. And we also have a Patreon page, which is the best way to show your support for the podcast for as little as $2 a month. And all of the episodes drop early there and they're ad free. I think that is it. So thank you so much for listening.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.